15 minutes. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about write-ups and things. Some of you probably remember me talking to you before about how to do some things properly, especially when we have a staff member that we struggle with. You know, we have tests. Tests helps us to help someone be supported in a way that they can improve. It also helps us to process someone to the point to where they're no longer your employee. But sometimes we have people who don't need to be an employee immediately. Right, Ms. Eads? That does happen. The longer I'm at Springdale, the more it's happened. I could tell you some stories, and probably will today, and we'll have some laughs, but know that all the stories that I'm going to tell you are true, as sad as that may be. Okay. We're going to talk about some administrative directives and hard conversations. Leadership. People don't remember what you say, but they do remember how you make them feel. Is that true? I think I could probably say I've made some of you feel maybe a little ashamed or a little bit embarrassed. Some of you have made me feel a little embarrassed at times too, because I felt like maybe I didn't serve you in the right way. But that's okay, because we're all part of the same family, right? I know that my dad and my mother over time, as they raised me, I was always embarrassed or ashamed of something that they caught me doing, or maybe not. That's just part of it. But they never disowned me or divorced me or anything else, and I won't do that with you, and hopefully you won't do that with me. A mediocre leader tells. Would you agree, yes or no? A good leader explains. A superior leader demonstrates, and a great leader inspires. Is that true? Stacey, what do you think? I agree. Me too. Some of the most inspiring people in my life have been some of my former coaches. Okay? A particular coach that I really value wrote some of the things down that he valued and that he learned over his life, and his name was John Wooden. Any of you know who John Wooden might be? Okay. John Wooden was the coach for UCLA, and he won, I guess, still a record, 11 national championships. And he had people that played for him, like Bill Walton and some others. A story that he told once in one of his books that really struck me as powerful was this. Bill Walton was a freshman, and they won a national championship, and he was freshman of the year. I mean, and they didn't win by a little. They won by a lot every game. The next year he comes back, and of course it's in the 70s, and he doesn't have hair like Mr. Swope. He has long hair with a beard, and it's all out. And back then, the coach said it was short hair above the earlobes, and we're going to have no facial hair. You know, the 70s, I don't think were like that. Some of you were born in the 70s, some of you were born after, some of you lived in the 70s as adults, and we'll not say much about that. But you may remember, some of you. Well, Bill Walton thought he was all that in a bag of chips. And he said, well, I've got long hair and I've got a beard and girls like me and they think it's cool and I'm showing up for practice. And he walks up to the coach and he's like, yeah, I'm ready for the season. And the coach said, well, pats him on the back. He said, I guess you're not on the team. He said, well, why, coach? He just looked at him and said, it was good to have you, enjoyed you, and walked off. And Bill Walton thought, ooh, I guess I better shave and get a haircut. And he didn't know if he was on the team or not, because he said, I enjoyed you on the team, and that's it. And walked off. He didn't yell at him, he didn't cuss, he didn't scream, he didn't do anything. But the young Bill Walton at the time realized that he had expectations for him to be on the team. It didn't matter how much success he had the year before or how much he thought of himself. It was a team. There were expectations, and he needed to follow those expectations. So what did he do? He went straight. He missed practice that day. He went straight down, got a haircut, shaved, showed up the next day hoping that he could be on the team. You know what he said happened? Nothing. He showed up, he sat on the bench, coach saw him, didn't say anything, and he said, all right, I need to start in 5. And he got up and walked out there, nothing was said, they played. Okay? Met the expectation, got to move on. Leadership is just that. You don't have to berate anybody, you don't have to, you just inspire, you just move on. Now, we have a new teacher evaluation system, don't we? And I say it's new, it still feels new to me. What do we call that? Test. Call it test. What do we call your evaluation system for principals? Leads. Okay? All right. Each teacher employed by the board of directors of a school district must be evaluated, written annually. This is the Teacher Fair Dismissal Act. It hadn't changed. Law is established. The teacher evaluation system can change and will again. TESS is not here to stay, folks. It'll change. It'll get amended. That's just the way it works. TESS was established, and the law is 617-2801, and it's now universal. Okay, TESS has been and is a game changer for teachers. Correct? I like Charlie Brown. We had an accountability for student outcomes. It's a product. Now we have an accountability for staff. Now is always the time to address performance issues. So, this is important for us because this is real. This little statement that I put. Never ask a reduction in force or a one-year-only contract to do your job. Why would I say that? Do we have one-year-onlys? Some of you can think about this, and this is real application. When we put in practice something that's important, and I like the one-year-onlys. I get their resignation up front. It hasn't been tested in court, and it may at some point. When we tell somebody they're a one-year-only, and they say, well, no, I have a contract, and I know what that means by law. And you didn't non-renew me by May 1st, right? So I get to come back next year. No. That's why I get in writing by them before I process their paperwork that they understand it's a one-year-only, so it's basically a resignation. But anyway, I've had some conversations with some of you that said, oh, well, they're a one-year-only. Do I have to do their evaluation? I'm not going to call anybody out. Do you have to do their evaluation?
Yes.
So why would I get asked that question? Let's just move on. Okay. Getting a little awkward. All right. What's your mission statement? It's not about easy, low-demand jobs for adults, right? It's not what we do. It's about teaching and serving and learning and supporting. What we need to do is focus every day on hiring the best staff that we can and then training them to the point that our students have the best support ever. I need to talk to you a little bit about hiring. I'm going to aside from my PowerPoint just a second. We're in the midst of hiring season, correct? Sometimes I send you names and some resumes that may get to our office for some reason. I don't want you to ignore that. If I send you something, it's for a purpose. It's either I know the background or I know something. I may not say to you, hey, I want you to hire this person, but I want you to look at the resume and I want you to see if it's somebody that you might be able to use. There has been a push in the past to change the way we do things, and I'm not interested in doing that. The push is for us to collect, meaning the central office, to collect people that we want to hire in the district and say, here, you choose from this group. I'm not sure that's good. I love it that you have the free will to filter who you want to think it's the best fit for your school. Because who might be a great fit for Lee might not be a great fit for Bayari. It just might not be. You might need someone who's really great in literacy for a particular team, and you might be looking for someone who's really great in math. That's just how that needs to work. So if I did all the filtering, might not be good. So I'm trying to keep that in your hands. But if I do know about someone who's high quality, and I push it out to particular folks out there, I would like for you to at least look at them. Would y'all commit to doing that? Okay. Doesn't mean I want you to hire them. It just means please look. I've been getting some people in my office that I've interviewed. If you're sending me people and you haven't done the appropriate reference checks and they're nuts, I'm gonna call you. Okay? Just like when you're hiring an assistant principal, we're interviewing you by the people you bring us. I need you to be very cognizant of who you're sending. It can't be your cousin's best friend's daughter that you're hiring or whatever. Hire the right folks for your team. There are alerts, okay, on our application system may be a little bit antiquated, but look through the entire application system, and if it says alert, look at it and see why. If someone's had a DWI on there, let's figure out why, okay? I'm not saying that someone shouldn't be forgiven for something. I got that. You know, if they're 45 and something happened when they were 18 or in college, but if it was just a couple of years ago and they're running from something, or if they don't have a Arkansas license yet, or do the homework on someone, please. Here lately I've had one or two, in fact I think I've had 3 up to this point, to where I thought, how did this person get here? And again, I'm not trying to call anybody out or make anybody feel awkward. It's not my point. I really need you to be very, very careful of who you send up here to my office, okay? Because I want to do a good job for you. My job is to be that filter. It really is. And I'm not going to be mad. I'm not going to be mean. But the people that leave my office, when they know they're not going to get hired, I think they feel it. I think they get it. Because they spend a little bit extra time. And the stories I get back, I got a call from a staff member the other day and said, no, it was Mr. Mills at Springdale High. Anybody know Mr. Mills? He's a biology teacher at Springdale High. I saw him at church. And he walked up to me and he said, oh, I got to tell you a story. He said, I met this young teacher that was just hired over at Springdale High. He said, that interview that you had with so-and-so, he said, he thought that was awful. He did a terrible job and you just grilled him. I said, I'm sorry, I don't remember. I don't know who you're talking about. Anyway, the point was, he was scared to death and he thought it was a rigorous process, and I guess it was. But he passed, apparently. But I had one the other day that I even made him leave and come back and bring some more material, and he didn't pass. So anyway, be real careful about who you send, please. Because if you send somebody who doesn't make it, or let's say they do make it, they're going to be a problem for you, right?
You and I have talked about this before, and if you want to just stick with this or divert.
No, let's go.
How do you filter for crazy?
Yeah, we have, this is true.
People come in and they interview great, and they sound great, and they know the right things to say, and you know, is it allowable to say, hey, you answered this, and I wrote this down in your interview, and you're doing the opposite, but we talked about it specifically. How do you filter for crazy?
I think Dr. Lyons might be able to add some.
Well, I was going to say, so is it okay? I mean, I have in the past asked them to bring their latest eval with them to the interview.
If they want to provide that, you absolutely
Okay.
can. You absolutely
Because I just
can.
think that like, their last eval will tell me a lot.
The last eval is important, but Dr. Stuman does something that I like a whole lot. Yes. She'll either have them teach a lesson in front of some people or in front of her, or even have video of a lesson. I think that's,
Somebody right, she wants her to teach in her classroom.
yeah. Now that takes extra effort. It takes a lot of extra effort, but I'm not so sure that you want anybody in your building that you didn't go 10 times 10 to really filter through. Do any of you in here have some suggestions on really what's worked well for you in hiring? Because now's a good time to share while we're on this little speak. Ms.
I'll
Pope?
make some references that they didn't list, digging deeper,
Okay.
and that you find out a lot. And sometimes it's usually really good, but sometimes it's like, oh.
You know what, I think one thing that Linda Childers taught me was that it's not really a question, answer. It becomes a conversation, and the passion comes out within that conversation. If an interview is just a question, answer, bouncing back and forth, that's not natural, that's not real. You're not seeing the real passion in what they can do. But, and Shelley and I've talked about this a lot, sometimes we just have, an interview turns into a conversation, and it's because of that passion that they have that comes out, and I mean, there's that connection and that fire, and I don't really know how to put my finger on what that is, it's just a sense. But I think more than anything, you see the potential by what they have to offer besides just answering the question,
How many of you have made a mistake in hiring? Be honest. We're among friends. How many of you wished you hadn't have made that mistake? Okay. With your other hand, how many of you did something about the mistake? How many of you still have the mistake in your building? That's kind of my point from the previous slide. Sometimes the mistakes can be good enough to keep their job. They can do just enough to keep their job. Test doesn't fix it, but tests can help grow them. If they were good enough for you to recommend, it's your responsibility to help them be good enough to stay and grow. Okay? I've hammered on that a little too long. Okay.
Can I ask about the alert? How does that get on there?
Okay. Pretty much that's self-reported. The question is, have you ever been arrested? Have you ever been dismissed? You have to look through each of those pages. There was a young man that I interviewed the other day. The principal didn't catch it. It said alert. In fact, when you look it through vernacular, it says it in bold letters all the way across. All I did is tap on it. It said alert, DUI. Okay? So when the guy came in, I said, hey, tell me about this DUI. Oh, the first one or the second one? I'm like, oh, okay, okay, okay. That's what happened. That's a true story. Okay. Poor teacher performance tolerated is professional malpractice by administrators. True or false?
True.
When I was a principal, I did this. I committed malpractice. Golly, I hate even saying that. Why? Because everything else got in the way. Everything else got in the way. We didn't have the teacher evaluation support system. It was just me, no assistant, and I had almost 400 kids. Okay? I had 6th grade through 12th grade. I had all the duties all by myself. I was at everything. My superintendent got fired during the year, and I was also superintendent in March. I did this. No excuse, right? John Wooden says, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, don't whine, don't complain, don't make excuses. I don't have any. But the next principal had a couple of real problems the next year, which I was superintendent and I had to help fix. Okay? I should have done my job. I'm sorry about that too. Test is a game changer for principals. Not going to read it. You read it, you know it, you've seen it. Is there an easy button to fix anybody, to help anybody? No, it takes time, okay? That's why hiring is so important, right? Hiring is so important. You have to have diligence on the front end, right, Mr. Slope? Filtering for crazy is so hard. Because people lie to you every day.
Just wish you could say you're crazy.
Well, you just have to put you've got to put the goggles on. You know, you got to put the goggles on of, okay, are they lying to me?
Want to sneak up after 3 years.
Well, sometimes you can tell when someone's off their medication, we'll say. Okay. Probationary means a couple of things, it means different. Let's talk about the difference. Probationary has meaning inside the test for how you assess. Probationary and teacher fair dismissal, something different. The first 3 years, a certified teacher is in a school district. Let's say you could be 30 years somewhere else and the first 3 years here. The main difference is if you want to process someone out, okay, let's say they came from where I came from, Lavaca, Arkansas. They've been there 25 years. Now they're here. First year they didn't do very well. We're processing them out for whatever reason. And we do, but they fight it. So we have a hearing. It's at the board level. Board says, yes, you're correct. They're done. Okay? Let's say they were here for 4 years, like what Mr. Swope just said, after the third year. Been here 4 years, had a problem. It was egregious. We go to termination. We have a hearing at the board level. Board says, it was bad. You're out. Now they have 75 days to file a court case in circuit court to get their job back. 75 days is a long time. Okay? So they can go to circuit court. And we have our attorney in the back, so I'm saying it right because she didn't get up and throw anything at me. Okay? That's the difference after 3 years. So probationary means something different, okay, in the eyes of the law. For classified people, completely different. They don't have the same rights as a certified person. It always ends with the board, okay? Here's an interesting aside, and I think I put it in another slide. If you have a secretary, a cafeteria person, an instructional assistant, a special ed IA, doesn't matter, and you hire this person August 1st, doesn't matter, whenever, and they're just not working out, and you know it's not good, they're good enough to maybe stay the year, but not good enough you want to keep. All you have to do at the end of the year, if you allow them to stay, is to say, thank you for your service, we're going to allow the contract to expire. You don't have to keep them, you don't have to renew them, but make sure they're not on the list for you to renew, okay? They are owed nothing. Just a pat on the back, thank you. What?
No time involved in that?
I'm sorry?
Like like with the class
The
certified?
first year only. That's the first year only. After the first year, there's some due process in that. Now, in the first year, if you're going to terminate them for something, they've done something egregious, they still get due process, all of that. But if you're going to allow the contract to expire, you can allow it to expire. You don't have to give a reason, nothing.
Is there a May 1 deadline?
No, you just, certified's always May 1. Classified, it's 30 days prior to the end of the contract. Okay, so it's June 1. Everybody okay with that? Everybody good? Y'all are smiling, so I think maybe you're thinking yes. Okay. All right. You have to be clinical in your evaluation. Dr. Rollins says it this way sometimes. Have the guts to tell it like it is. Have the guts to tell it like it is. There are times when I have really difficult conversations with people, but I try to do it in a way that is respectful and kind, okay? And comes from a place that is honest, because I expect the same thing back. be honest with me. You don't have to yell at me, scream, cuss, none of that. Let's have an honest dialogue. Let's be together. I can respect you for being honest with me. I hope you can respect me for being professional and honest with you. Let's do that. And it goes well. I fired somebody not too long ago, and you know what happened? They hugged me and said thank you. Oh, strange. That was really strange. And then they asked me to take a picture with them. Not too long after that, it was like a year later, this person brought their mother in and said, this is the person I was telling you about. I wanted you to meet him. That's crazy. Okay? But I was happy to do it. Happy to do it. Okay. I just love y'all. Y'all laugh at my stuff. It's so much fun. Okay. So where does test fit in? So we have a really, really, really bad teacher. Okay? A really bad one. What do? So I love good analogies. Right, Mr. Jinks? I'm always doing analogies. I want you to rate my food. Those of you who've seen this before, just stick with me. Those of you who hadn't, I want you to be really impressed. I like to cook. I'm not very good at it. But I want you to rate my food. Below basic, basic, proficient, and distinguished. Not disgusting, distinguished. Okay? Rate it. Okay? Some of you that are vegetarians, you think probably not. Mr. Swope?
I'll give it a proficient on appearance, but I haven't tasted it.
I like the way you think. That's telling it like it is. Dr. Slogan? Yes, what? You didn't listen to the directions?
I said it was proficient.
Proficient. Anybody else? Who said that? It's tomatoes and squash and... Come on. Okay, whoever said
Break this
that?
down into presentation. Great grill marks.
I want to say Dr. Bridgefort's fired. Okay? What about this? Yeah? Okay, well, y'all aren't, you're all bad. All right. When there are no guests around to notice or admire me, and I'm too tired to grill out, this is what I might feed my family. Rate me. Is that proficient? What about this? That's probably, you know, I'm thinking I might be basic on this. What about this? I can tell I'm losing the crowd.
Good thing you were after lunch.
What if the dinner excellence and support system actually existed for me? Do you think I would allow cereal or pizza or anything else if I was rated every day on how I performed in the cafeteria or in my kitchen or on the grill? It might change some things, right? What do you think, Dr. Clay? Might change. So, if I'm capable of producing these kinds of things, then I should, right? So if I had some magic dots to throw around and fix some things, would I do it? Where would I put them? Do you have any magic dots to fix people? We don't, do we? So what do? We have to inspect what we expect. Is that right, future Dr. House?
That's right.
Okay. And it takes what in order to do that? Which we don't have, right? Mr. Gladden, how many staff members do you have in your building?
Gosh, I'm here 20 plus,
How many are you directly responsible for?
38,
So how much time do you have every day to be in classrooms?
not very much.
Because of what?
Every other thing goes on.
Okay? So just like I was in my district where I had 400 students and about 40 staff members, and I was superintendent and principal and janitor and bus driver and all that other stuff where I committed teacher malpractice or administrator malpractice. Things do happen. It did not keep me, though, from being evaluated by the board and others, and maybe the community, on my quality. Those expectations are still there. So we have to be cognizant. And you know, at the same time, I knew what I did and didn't do. All of you are thinking about it right now. I know you are. You're thinking about what you did, what you have and haven't done, right? So when you do that self-reflection, that's where you grow. That's where you improve. I do it all the time. And man, when I rate myself and my score, I'm terrible, I think. There are some days that I go home and I think, man, I did a good job. And there are some days I think, good Lord, oh, nobody knows how bad I am. Because I really feel like I didn't do a good job today. But no magic dots, we don't have it. We don't. And time is not a variable, right? It's a constant. So, where can value be added by administration with tests? In every quadrant. That's the answer. Every quadrant. Tests may be added very little value to the best teachers. Test provides evidence regarding the worst teachers, and tests will help that second and third quartile bunch, right? You're trying to grow just like your kids. You're trying to move those kids. This is in your PowerPoint, so I'm not going to spend much time. So, did you need tests for that? Do you know what teachers are good and bad already without tests? How do you know? What, Maribel? That's right. That's right. You're in your classroom.
And you see them in the hall, you hear how they talk to students, you hear how they talk to teachers, in PLCs, you see how they work with their colleagues.
Okay, let's play a little scenario. You know there's a staff member in your building that's really not very good for kids, but can do a model lesson. Now what? What do you do? What do we call those kinds of conversations? Courageous conversations, right, Darlene? Man, they're hard to do. They are so hard to do. How many have had one this year? How many wish they didn't have to have that? I love this raising hand stuff. Okay. I've been involved with some of you in your buildings with some of the courageous conversations you've had. And man, are you good. You are good. Lynn Ryan, rock star. I'm telling you what. Rock star. Absolutely awesome. And some of you others are awesome too. Anyway, proud of you for all that. Simple things to support your work. And what it is, it's how you prep your support staff. All right? Let's say you're out in your building, mad mom calls, mad dad, whatever, calls, and they want you right now. By gosh. So what does your secretary need to say? Well, Miss Eads is away from her desk. Does that work? Probably not. Mr. Jinks is working with teachers in classrooms right now. Oh, well, that makes sense. Yeah. That's a lie, probably, but. Okay. What about number 3? Your time, your call is important to Miss Tisher. Since she's working with instruction at this time, I'll leave a message for her to return your call. What's the most appropriate one? It seems to be number 3 might work. Have any of you trained the people that answer your phones? Have you talked to them about it? Is it something that you think about? I think it's details, right? Some of you have secretaries that you're hiring this summer. Have you thought about how you train them? Is it even something that's on your mind? Ms. Covington, when you hired your secretary last year, what did you think? Are there any tips that you could provide the group?
We did have them do some practice exercises. What would you say in this situation? We even looked at typing speed. We looked at having them act out scenarios for us. So that helped us.
There was a a lady who came to my office and visited with me this last week, and she's a secretary that's retiring. And I like to talk to people who retire and go out. I want to know what we did well as a district, what we haven't done so well. Besides, I just like to talk to people, especially if they're longtime Springdale residents, and it helps me know our community. And she talked to me about what she believed her job was. And I asked her, I said, did anyone ever train you to do this? No, not really. What do you think your job was? My job was to be the face of the district. Wow. So how did you do it? Didn't matter how mad someone was, I was to smile. It's all about customer service. And every time someone asked me how I was doing, I'm blessed. Why am I blessed? I'm blessed to work in this district. I'm blessed to work with these kids. I'm blessed to be part of this group. You trained her, Pete Jings. Yeah. Janet?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. She's blessed. Wonderful person. Okay? Wonderful person. Okay. I just want you to think about your support staff, because they represent you. If they get mad, they get frustrated, guess who they're mad at? They're not mad at the secretary. They're not mad at the support staff. They're mad at you. Then they're mad at me. They're mad at Dr. Rollins. Okay? And I just prefer that not happen. All right. Challenges with tests. We know there are some public issues. There are some principal issues with that. We're going to get through that. You've been doing this for a few years. I know Ms. Clay's going to talk about tests and some of those other challenges, but with you specifically, we do have a culture of niceness, don't we? We just do. All of you are so nice. Miss Voss, you're so nice.
It's sickening, isn't it?
Yes. Miss Flora, so nice and so perfect. Okay? We tend to have conflict avoidance. We tend to not want to have these hard conversations. And sometimes we don't do a good job of training how to do a proper write-up. So we're going to get there, okay? We know teachers are basic. We know they have some high spots. And we know that most of them want an A or a B, and they'll take that. We know that sometimes our principals, including me as a principal, have a hard time with artifact management. Even in leads, some principals are say, well, I did this last year and it's kind of more the same. I'll just use last year's artifact. Anybody gonna do it? I'm not gonna ask you to raise your hand. I wish Dr. Morledge was in here. I know Dr. Smith's in here. I'm not gonna ask her to raise her hand. That would never happen, would it? Last year's artifact? Nah. Okay. All right. Challenges with tests. Our Miss Kendra is still learning about tests. So are all the attorneys across the state. We're all in this learning game, okay? Not a lot of challenges out there. So, how do you address poor teachers? You do it. You know who they are already, okay? Please keep us in the loop. Many of you do an excellent job doing that. What's my time like? Okay, so I'm doing okay. If you see things going south, if you can't get a hold of me, call Ms. Clay. Wonderful resource. How many of you have talked to Ms. Clay throughout the year? All right, Ms. Clay, way to go. Wonderful resource, okay? I'm not so bad. She's really great. So make sure that you're keeping us in the loop. And you do a really good job when I know it's in the tank, because when it's in the tank, you're calling me right then. Don't let it get in the tank before you call me, by the way. Get in there early and often. We're talking about in the classroom. So Plan A summative this year, get in there early and often, be clinical, get real, be strong, be kind. Don't be afraid to have the courageous conversation. Tell the truth. Don't sugarcoat it. They know. If they're doing a poor job. Call me, let's make a plan. Dr. Greek did this last year. What happened? Where's Dr. Greek? We had a staff member, we made a plan, we got it all together. What happened? The guy said, I'm out. Didn't want to do the work. Some other principals have done the same thing. But it takes time. All right. I love this. Miss Ford, I think I might have gotten this from you. Hey, if it's true, I'm not being ugly. If I'm telling the truth, it's not ugly. Anybody, do you think that came from Sarah Ford? Yeah, it sounded like her. I think it's her. I think I stole it from her. All right. You've got all this. I'm going to roll through a little bit. Professional learning plans, make sure they're detailed, make sure there are deadlines. How many of you have gone through this? Am I telling the truth, Dr. Crick? Okay, Ms. Fink, we've all done it. Ms. Tischer's done it too. Recap, employee not satisfactory, evaluate, get on the plan early, get in the classrooms, frequent justified write-ups, make sure you inspect what you expect. All right, here are your authorities. Let's get to the write-ups. You all have this? I'll put it in there. I want to get to the write-up. Let's talk about, well, time frame is important. Generally, I need documentation from the current contract year for a non-renewal. Generally, we consider there to be a 3-week window of opportunity for a write-up of an employee. This is important. Some of you have had conversation with me, oh, this teacher did X. And it was 3 weeks ago. Special ed kid, and they dragged the kid down the hallway. So-and-so saw it. They didn't tell me till this week, and it was 2 weeks ago. What do I do? I'm making this up. As soon as you know about it, what do? You get on it, okay? It's not about when the event happened, it's when you knew about the event happening. Make sense? If you have video, great. If you don't have video, it's all about the documentation of who saw what when. And boy, does it take time. Does it take time? Okay. Write up and classifieds. Now I'm going to tell you a couple of stories. Typically, I say 3 strikes and you're out. Meaning, 3 strikes in a year. I had a lady do 3 strikes in a day and a half. It was amazing. I've never seen anything like it. And then I had, this year, a guy do 3 strikes in like 30 seconds. Because it was me, I caught it. So I'm going to tell both these stories. A couple of years ago, Jeremy, we had a custodian at a large school. I'll just tell you, it was at HAR-BER. We have lots of cameras over there. Called me and said, we've got this lady who's been on FMLA 7 times. Number flagged for me right then. I said, 7 times? How long has she been in the district? Well, I don't know, 5 or 6 years? Okay, now I know. We have a problem with, we haven't trained right in FMLA because you can only do it once per year, okay? So now I've got a management issue. So this is swirling. Well, what's she done? Well, she says her back hurts. Well, what have you done? And I wish Jeremy was here because I'm not telling on him. He was brand new and hadn't had a whole lot of supervisory experience. And he said, well, her back hurts, so we let her get a wheelchair out of the medical lab and do her work from a wheelchair. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, you know, she sits in the wheelchair and she kind of walks herself around the halls. Really? Okay. How does she do her work that way? Well, we got her a sub, and she tells the sub what to do. So she sits in a wheelchair. Let me get this right. She sits in a wheelchair, and you have a sub doing the work, and he said, yeah, it doesn't sound good, does it? No, it really doesn't. It really doesn't. So why is she in trouble since we're letting all this happen? Well, it appears from looking at the video that she sat in the teacher's lounge for about 7 hours, and the 7 hours isn't in her zone. So the sub's doing the work now. Oh yeah, it appears she trained her. Okay, so the sub's in the work zone. This person's in the teacher's lounge. Yeah, and there are complaints from the other custodians that she ate all their food. Okay, so that's how it came about that we found out this person did whatever. And I'm not embellishing, okay? I'm not embellishing anything. So, well, how do we know that this person ate the food? Well, we don't really have any cameras in the teacher's lounge, but we know we watched it, and she never came out. Okay. Call her in, ask her if she ate the food, but get her out of the wheelchair. And if she's really hurt, she doesn't need to be coming to work. We have sick days for that, so we did that. What? 15 minutes, okay. I'll hustle. Okay. So I may have to, I'll hustle the story. But it is funny, isn't it? I need a little funny. Okay. All right. So we called the lady in. I wasn't involved. And the lady gets mad at Jeremy for saying, hey, look, you can't eat other people's food. And you need to be working. Or you just, you know, if you're too sick to work, that's why we have sick days. You need to do that. So she gets mad. And she goes back to work. And she's so mad that she runs from her truck into the building because we have it on video. Okay? And she goes into the medical professions lab, gets the wheelchair, and she walks, okay, and, you know, scoots, whatever, to the custodial closet. And you can just see her thinking, processing. And she takes the dust mop head off, takes it off, and gets tape and puts it on the end of the pole. And we see her scoot to the camera. And she raises the pole up with the tape, and she covers up the camera. Wow. It's true. Then she scoots to the next camera at the other end of the hall. 6 times, 6 cameras. So Jeremy calls me and says, you won't believe this. And I said, that's your line. And no, I promise I'm not. I said, get her in. Get her in here. We got to talk to her. So calls her back over. So strike 2, right? Strike 2. So she comes in. I give her an opportunity to have a witness. She brings a witness. She brings a witness. Or she's coming to bring a witness. And she said she can't be there till the next day because her witness can't come. I said, oh, okay, whatever. So the next morning, I said, send her home, whatever. So he calls and he said, hey, you know, I can't believe this, but she stole a bunch of poinsettias off the stage. Like, what do you mean she stole a bunch of poinsettias off the stage? Well, it shows her carrying them out to her truck. Really? He said, yeah, there's another custodian carrying them out to the truck too. I said, well, how many? He said, I don't know, but the whole back of the truck's rounded and the front of the truck's all full. Okay, because we've already got the letter written, the whole bit, and I was just going to reprimand her. I said, get her in here now. So we got her in. And we're visiting with the lady. And I'm telling her, looks like, you know, you just not going to be able to work here anymore. I said, oh, by the way, do you have any poinsettias don't belong to you? No, poinsettias don't belong to me. I said, Jeremy, cue up the video. She's like, oh, what video? And I said, well, the ones that you didn't cover, we have you on video. And why didn't you cover any video? Well, cue up the other video. We clearly see you. So she didn't, we had an honest conversation from that point. She no longer works here, but she did sue us for wrongful termination. So I got to go to court over that, and we won. Then she sued us again for equal opportunity employment because she said I discriminated her because of her weight and her age. Won that too. It doesn't matter what happens. You have to have your stuff right, and that was interesting.
Can you check and make sure she's not currently working in my
She's not. Jeremy saw her in Ockenboro yesterday.
Dr. Cleveland, it would be really great if you had video clips to go in your presentation. You could get tech to blur her face out. That would be great.
Hey, I didn't tell you about the bus driver with the XXX side, so I didn't tell you about that one. Okay. There are specific write-ups. you write people up for cussing and, you know, those kinds of things. But let's get to them. Because I only have, 14 minutes now, 13 minutes? What if the problem isn't a teaching problem? What if it's a character problem? 8 minutes? All right. You address the misconduct or misbehavior with write-ups and letters. You monitor your evidences. You make sure you know about FMLA. You make sure you know about ADA and those kinds of things. If you want to know about ADA issues with teaching staff, we have an expert right there. It's the shortest person in the room. She is really, really good with ADA, right? Miss Allison Strange. Raise your hand if you don't know Miss Allison Strange. Everybody knows her. Right, Allison? We know what to do, right? She's excellent. We didn't know about it at first, but now we do. Okay? That's the great thing about having all of you in here. We have enough issues that take place in any particular building. We can get together and we will have had most of the experiences. Okay? All right. Write-ups versus improvement plan. Always seek assistance from us. Please do. Because if I don't know about it, I can't help keep you out of jail. Okay? Write-up letter is a short and to the point letter. A good improvement plan is a PGP. It's long, it's detailed, it contains multiple tasks for a teacher to perform. It includes deadlines and it must be timely. Okay? If an improvement plan or PGP requirements aren't met, the principal responds with a write-up letter. We've done that. They're insubordinate if they don't perform. Correct? Yes? And it builds a file. During the improvement plan, there's a time frame. It's got to be within the contract year. Once the contract year renews, folks, it's all new. TESS is not, but an improvement plan pretty much is. Now, if you notify them in June that you're going to be on an improvement plan for the next year, that's fine. That can carry over. Okay? Look at this last bullet here. How many of you think that you can require somebody to do professional development in a specific area when they're not on contract? You just can't. Okay, key points. Formal evaluation for tests should be done prior to implementing the improvement plan. There should be direct relationship between the deficiencies, right, and the remediation. The improvement plan needs to contain directives. If the teacher does not have mastery of those particular subject areas or growth or whatever, then we need to make sure that that plan addresses that problem. And the failure to meet the deadline or complete the assignment is directly insubordination and needs a write-up letter. All right. End result. Performance is not satisfactory. Documentation exists to non-renew or terminate. How many of you want to see an example write-up letter? Let's get to it. Your write-up letter needs to be on school district letterhead. It's not a memo. No emails to file. Can't be generic. It's got to be legit. It's got to have a signature by you, and it needs to have a signature by them, but if they don't want to sign it, you just write on there, they refuse to sign. No big deal. I'm going to get to an example here, since I'm running out of time. Golly, I didn't realize I took too much time. Okay. This is funny. I like it. How not to write up a teacher. Dear Miss Owens, I'm very upset and concerned over the incident that occurred yesterday. I'm sure you understand that this was conduct that's grossly unbecoming as a teacher, and I simply cannot have anything of this sort ever happen again. Sincerely, the principal. That's a stock letter, right? So what'd they do? I don't know. How to write up an employee. Describe what you saw. It's called the Debits method. Kristen Gould, Kristen Garner, this is hers. I can't take any credit for this. But describe what you saw, explain what's wrong, be clear, give instructions, threaten that there's termination or non-renewal ahead, and get the signature. Okay? Here's the example. Dear Mr. Owens, yesterday you got hot and took off all your clothing above the waist during your 5th period class. You explain that you have to be comfortable to do your job. Mr. Owens, partial teacher nudity is a violation of our personnel policies as well as being unsightly and alarming. It is unprofessional to teach without a shirt on. In the future, keep your clothing on, regardless of the temperature in your room. If you are warm and the air conditioning is not working, call the office and we'll report the problem to maintenance and send up a fan. Should you disregard the directive to keep your shirt on, please understand that this could lead to further disciplinary action being taken against you, which could include termination and non-renewal. Sincerely, your name and title.
Is it legal for you to put that letter you wrote me? I mean, really?
Keep your shirt on, Swope.
Huh?
What? Who said that? Maribel, this was an example letter. Okay, here's the one I really want you to have. Smart Alex. See, we're all family. We can get mad at one another. We poke fun at one another. Typically, it's Swope doing all that. All right. It's small. Look at your computer if you have it. I want to make sure that you understand. I've sent this to many of you before. How many of you have it and you've used it? Does it work? Yes or no? Yes. It does. First part is, it's come to my attention you're having difficulty meeting the expectations as an employee at Springdale School District. This letter is to serve as a written reprimand. This works in court, folks. Now, the next section, this is a big deal. In this section, explain exactly what you expect. Use bullets. The bullets is what will be tested. It needs to be not I think, I feel, none of that. Okay? My dad's an attorney and he used to always tell me be very factual, very slow. Don't say I think, I feel, nothing subjective. You did X. Simple. Okay? You dragged the kid down the hall. You kicked your fellow teacher. You punched the mom. You did whatever. Next, due to your actions, spell out exactly what your directives are. Finally, big deal. You're noticing them. Your job is in jeopardy. Disregard for policies of the district will not be tolerated. Finally, a copy of this written reprimand will be placed in your official personnel file. Where is that located? Where? Where? Where's that? Where? Where's it not? Where have many of you been keeping them? Send them. All right. Not with your transfers, elementary. Please send them down. That's for classified and certified. It's very important. If you have them in your office, they don't exist. I've gone to my office and my personnel files looking for written reprimands or write-ups on some people that you tell me, oh, they've been written up several times and I'm trying to get history. Empty. Whose fault is that? So come on. Right? So I'm kind of putting you on notice. I need it from you. So if you don't send it to me, it doesn't exist. And don't say, well, it got lost in campus mail. All right. We can have a great year. It's coming, whether we want to or not. All of this can be avoided. Everything that we talked about except for tests can be avoided if you and I work together to hire the best people. Now, it's really, really hard to filter for crazy. Man, is it hard? Because they can go crazy. Might happen to me. Okay? And if you keep sending me crazy people, I'm going to go crazy. No, I'm just teasing.
Do we have time for questions?
Yes?
What about the teachers that miss a lot of work?
Yes.
Illness. Can we ever require they start bringing doctor's notes?
I call that bad behavior. We're dealing with that in the custodial ranks right now.
By certified
I understand, but what I'm going to do, what I'm going to tell you here, if they're missing, let's say 3 days in a row, you can ask for a doctor's note.
Every Monday.
If they're missing Mondays and Fridays, there's a problem. Okay, and I hate to generalize, but it could be drugs and alcohol.
I think it's prescription.
Could very well be. We've seen it, haven't we? We've seen it across the
It's a
district.
private conversation with you then.
Yeah, we need to have that. But if they miss a consistent number, and if they're being docked, do any of you have any staff members that are being docked consistently? You know, we have FMLA. So if there are issues, it's family medical leave. We need to get that started. They've got 12 weeks to hold their job, but let me just tell you, they can take intermittent leave. We can have a whole conversation about FMLA, and I think we're going to do that in our back to school, okay, with us. We want you to have great understanding of how things work. We've been out in the real world, okay? Many of us here have just been in Springdale, and you do great and wonderful work with curriculum and instruction, and man, you guys are the best in the world as instructional leaders. I've never seen anything better, anybody any better. But where we've done a poor job is helping you understand some of the nuts and bolts. That's part of the reason why we do this leadership series. We've asked some of you, hey, what are you missing? What would you like to know? Oh my goodness, did we get it? Good answers. And that's part of the reason why we're here today, okay? And plus, I want to grow some new leaders. You guys aren't going to be around forever. So I need you to identify really good folks in your buildings that are going to be up and coming leaders and help mentor them, promote them, get me the names. I want to have these kinds of meetings with them, okay? Y'all were in the classroom once, somebody did something for you, right, to promote you, get you up there. Need you to do that for me, help get them in front. So anyway, we're going to talk about FMLA, we're going to talk about ADA, Americans with Disabilities. We're going to talk about 504 and what that looks like for staff members. Who knew, right? Dr. Greek, you have something?
I had a question regarding an intensive growth plan for a teacher. Have you seen them challenged very often by like an SEA rep or anything? Or?
No, because they're perfectly legal. They're perfectly legal. In fact, I have to give some kudos. How much time do I have left? Am I over?
You're over, but it's good.
Lovely.
You're fine.
Thanks, Jacob. Okay. How many of you know Chris Pearson? Okay. I used to be a little apprehensive about anybody that's from USERV because I've had some bad experience. But I'm going to tell you what, Miss Pearson, she's for kids. She is for kids. And I know some of us have had maybe some experience with her that maybe might not be pleasant, but when she catches us and we're maybe not doing the right thing, okay, we have to be man or woman enough to say, hey, I did it wrong. Thanks for helping us keep the process pure. When I first met her, I was hesitant and I quizzed her hard. In fact, I didn't know if our relationship was going to be very good at all because the experience I had with the person before was not. Right.
Right.
We had lots of fun, okay? But when Miss Pearson came along and I started talking to her about what her motives were, and I told her about when I was 7 years old, my dad, I think I told you he was an attorney, he had to represent a guy named Joe Morgan. Joe Morgan, who was forced to do it. That's back in the 70s when the courts assigned an attorney to do pro bono work because there weren't enough attorneys in the state, and he had to represent this guy who murdered some people in Mena, okay? And it was very brutal. It was on the news, that kind of thing. And the guy was guilty because I heard my mom was his secretary at night, even though she was a teacher. And I heard them both sobbing about, they were reading these letters and sobbing about, oh, he's got to do this. Here I'm 7 years old listening, thinking, good Lord. And so I went in there and asked him, I said, why are you doing this? I couldn't believe my dad would represent somebody who's a murderer. That's awful. How awful is that? And he sat me down and he said, look, there are things we do in life that are hard. Everyone deserves a fair trial. our process must remain pure. The guy said he didn't do it, even though I know he did. But he deserves a fair trial. That's my role. The process has to remain pure. So at 7 years old, I learned due process. So our staff, regardless of whether they're guilty or completely innocent, deserves an opportunity to be heard every time. So she and I got that out of the way. So when we understand we're going to keep the process pure, even when she has to represent somebody she knows is guilty of sin, that's fine. If she knows they're guilty of sin, I do too, we're going to go through the steps. And she's just as happy as I am when that person's gone. Okay? But it helps me be better. It helps you be better. And in the end, we get the right result. Right? Because no one wants anybody around who's not good for kids. Any other things?
I have a separate question about summative eval.
Okay.
Do we eval, because I've been told 1,000 different things, do we eval everyone their first 3 years in Springdale? Even if they, let's say they've been in Fayetteville for 10 years and they come to us?
Do we eval summative evaluation every year in the first 3 years?
On summative?
Even if they've been somewhere else? To me, y'all help me with that. Megan, to me, I think we do. Y'all help me. We
If they've had experience someplace else, we've done one.
You've done one?
One within the
And then they get moved.
Okay. It sounds like we've done it all over the map. So, Dr. Smith, Dr. Slocum, what are your directions?
So what I've been telling them, if you've got a teacher that comes in and they've had, they automatically go on track one first year. But they can jump up quickly through that based on their performance and past expectations. And you would have them there, which gives you actually 4 years to have them on a summative, so to speak, on a full blown cycle, yeah. But then you're gonna have teachers that, you're recommending for the top notch teachers, right? So they should come in with some very strong evaluations, and I think you see that. I think if they're brand new though, they need to stay on the.
Yeah, I think that goes, you're asking about out of district, 10-year, high quality teachers, some of them national boards, is that what you're saying?
Like, yeah, I've just always made a blanket rule, your first 3 years in Springdale, you're evaluated. Someone will say, well, I've been 25 years in the state of Arkansas. I'll say, wow, thank you so much for your service, your first 3 years in Springdale, evaluation.
Well, here's the deal with that.
I must have gotten it from you.
I understand it. I think it's principal prerogative. I just do. If that's what you want to do with your staff to make sure that they're strong and quality, I don't have a problem with that. I don't think we ought to have a district directive on it. If Dr. Stuman thinks that she needs to do it once, okay. If Mr. Swope thinks the same thing, okay. If it's 3 years, I got it.
So, but it's not regulatory.
It's not regulatory. Now, if you have any direct questions on that, you've got experts sitting right up here. I'm not trying to shirk any responsibilities here, but it seems to me you ought to have the authority to evaluate how you want to in that regard. Anything else? I know you've got some nuts and bolts right here, and this guy's the guru in the state because he used to work for me. Till he bailed and I was really mad at him. But now he gets to work for me again. Okay? All right. Before we move on to him real quick though, I want to invite you, when we talk about some really bad behaviors, I gave you one story on some classified folks. Don't think that all the classified folks are that way. They're our backbone folks. And I need you to help me encourage them always. Okay? They don't get paid enough. We know that. Any of you have any of the Maestro candidates apply for your building? They're working. I want you to take a serious hard look at them. Serious hard look. Okay? I think we've had 3 or 4 graduate from U of A. Only one's been hired at HAR-BER. We need.
That's the program with the University of Arkansas.
Yes.
Yes.
What we did is they were parapros in our district. We paid them. They also went to U of A and worked. They're bilingual. They're great.
Can you send us their name?
Yeah. I can. But one worked at Elmdale, where else?
Yes, Rafael Oropesa, he is online. He's a good guy.
Yeah. So if you have, that's why I say when I send some folks out there, some names out there, please look at them. They're certified now. Yes, ma'am.
What about the situation that, and maybe this is, we've contemplated, we had a person call and say Dr. Rollins told them to call us, and we thought that was just odd that the candidate said that rather than it coming from the district office.
That's happened.
Okay.
That's happened. I've been up there when that's happened. That does not mean Dr. Rollins says, go hire them.
Yeah.
He's just saying, hey, he says, Dr. Cleveland, do we have any positions open? Yeah, I know there is. He says, oh yeah, we'll go over there and tell them. So, talk to them. They're great people, but typically they have a connection to somebody you might know. And that's great. Okay. We're not going to send you a dud.
Yeah.
But interview them, see if they're great. If they're not great, that's fine. Anybody else? All right. If I step on any toes, I'm sorry. If you got some bad information today, I'm sorry. If you got some great information, fantastic. Thanks, y'all.
All right, good afternoon. Before I get started on some of this stuff up here, I'm gonna talk to you for a minute about what we do, what eSchool is like now, and what TAC's like, and what ABSCAN's about now, since it seems like it changes every year, and I know y'all aren't always in the loop. So, I don't know everybody here. I'm Jacob Hilton. I do basically eSchool and TAC. Those are the two major programs. I can help you get logged in. I know some people use the program a lot and some people don't. So today, I'm not going to try to train anything in particular. I'm just going to try to show you some resources of what's out there so that y'all can use it if you want to. I know that different buildings use it differently. You might have a registrar that does most of your stuff. You might have really good help there. You might have really good help with your counselor. So it just depends by building. If at any point, at any time during the year, you feel like you need some type of training in your building, just let me know and we will come over to your building and do training. I know y'all are busy a lot and it's hard to get you all in the same place, so it's hard to get training going, especially for eSchool when you don't use it that often. But if you ever do need it, you just let me know and we will come over and we will talk about whatever specifically you want to do. I'm not going to have any funny stories today like Dr. Cleveland, I don't think, so it's going to be pretty cut and dry, me just showing you what these reports are that you can go look at. Some of them are going to be helpful. You might find some of them that are not. But eSchool now houses the same things that ABSCAN has always housed. You've got demographics, attendance, medical, and discipline. Some of you put in discipline. That's fine. I mean, that's pretty much what you put in. But there's going to be times where you want a report of, say, all of your ESL kids in the building or all of your SPED kids in the building. You want their phone numbers. You want this type of stuff. And instead of having to call me and look at it, I can show you just now how to get it. But we don't mind running it for you and sending it to you. We just might be working on something else currently and might have to send it to you later, so you might want to know how to do it. As far as our other jobs in eSchool that we would like you to know is we do the cycle reporting. Okay, so there's 9 cycles a year that we send in. So Mr. Hayes sends in 3 of them. He sends in the financial ones, and us in our office send in the student ones. So that's 2 through 7. Okay, so the important things to know about cycle 2 through 7 is this is basically where most of our funding comes from. Okay, so ADM funding and ALE funding are our 2 major ones that come out of our program. Now, the important thing to know about this is we have to fix these errors before we can send them in. And so that's why good help in eSchool is nice, because, you know, I like to not have any errors to send in. So anytime that you think that that your people need more training, I would love to come help, because, you know, I mean, that just helps us in the future anyways, because we just worked on cycle 7 and we had to work through about 2,000 errors just on random stuff. And I mean, it's part of the job, so it's not a major thing, but we would like it to be a lot less, you know, but that's kind of up to our training and stuff that changes. These things change every year and they add stuff to it. So I'm going to start showing you some stuff here. These are just reports that you're going to be able to run if you want to. I know some of you are going to have trouble logging in, so if you want to just pay attention and know these are possible, I can come show you more later. I just want you to know that, hey, these are possible to find and they're possible to get. I'm not going to go through the whole data entry for all of the major the things that go in, because everything basically goes in that's possible for a student. All right, so remember, when we're logging in to eSchool, we have to go through Internet Explorer. Yeah, it's awful, I know. It's like we have these new programs that are way better, and they make us use the old program. I'm hoping everything's going to work, since it's technology-based, and y'all know once you need something technology, it usually doesn't work. All right, so to get to the link to eSchool, I just have to go to the staff page. Once I get to the link here, I have eSchool Plus over here, and there's one for admins. Now, if there's any time that you need access to anything in particular, or you don't have access to anything, just let us know and we'll add it for you. It also is like a huge pain logging in, you know, because I have to type in the whole, it'll remember it, but I have to type in the whole app scan, 7207. J. Hilton. Okay, so the reputation of eSchool, or I should say AppScan, in the past was always, hey, you do these steps one by one, don't mess anything up because it's going to blow the whole system up. And so you were always scared to go in there and do stuff. This is eSchool now, and pretty much everything is fixable. If you want to get in there and you think you're going to mess something up, you're not going to mess it up. We'll be able to fix it. There's only been one time since we've been on eSchool that we had to pretty much, it was this year, we had to pretty much shut everybody off and say, hey, we got to fix something. And it was a major fix, but we were able to somewhat fix it. And that's something that was a huge mess up that doesn't happen very often. So I mean, I don't want you to worry about, hey, if I get in there and start playing around, I'm going to mess something up. You're not. You're not going to mess anything up. And if you do, we'll fix it. I mean, that's just the way that it's going to be. And that's what we're here for, to separate the mess ups and fix them before we send in the information to the state. So it's fine if you want to get in there. So once I get in here, I'm just going to hit OK. And so here's eSchool. Some of you might not have ever seen this. I'm not sure if you have. But okay. So this is eSchool. It's nothing to be scared of anyway. So we have on the left, we have registration center, student center, or scheduling center, attendance, mark reporting, discipline, medical. Those are the major things that come in here. I doubt that you're not going to be the one that enters this information. You're not going to be the one that enters the mark reporting information. That's going to come from TAC. Your teacher's going to enter the grades, and they're going to come over. If there's ever a discrepancy, probably your registrar or your counselor is going to fix it. They're going to fix the grade for them. Same thing goes with attendance. The teacher goes in there and puts attendance in, and it comes over automatically. All right? if there's ever a discrepancy, somebody in the office goes in there and changes it. All right. So there's all this information that's tied to all of these different students. All right, so I'm going to go to the Student Center, and I'm going to go to a search here just so I can show you how to search on a student. If I hit search here right now, I don't have anything selected. No name, no gender, no building, no grade, and no status. That means it's going to pull up every kid that has ever been in Springdale ever. So that's going to be like 70,000 kids or something. It would be ridiculous. You don't want to do that. It's best to get as specific. If you're looking for a particular kid, get as specific as you can. So if I were looking, say, for myself, I could, since my last name's Hilton, I could just type in H-I-L for the last name. And for the first name, I could type in J-A-C. And it's going to bring up everybody that has J-A-C in their first name and H-I-L in their last name. It's a really fast way to search for somebody if you just have part of their name. So, you know, I could do like Tyler. Oh, well. Oh, I did it. I hit search when nothing was in there, so you'll see. This is what you don't want. 79,000 kids. But if I had typed in, let's do Isaiah Aaron. So if I type in AA here, Isaiah, all of the people that have AA in their last name are going to come up, and all the people that have IS in their first name are going to come up. It eliminates a lot of people, and you can find what you're looking for. This is just if you're looking for one student in particular, okay? One student in particular. If you're looking for a group of students, okay, you have to get pretty specific. The system isn't going to know what you're searching for. You can't just talk into it. I know that this sounds like a lot, and you have to, it just really takes practice. So I've been doing, I've been working in AppScan for 10 years, and there's still things that I have to really sit down and write out and think about. And I've been doing it for 10 years. I know you all are thinking, why on earth would you choose to work in AppScan for 10 years? I rethink life decisions all the time. This is one of them, but it is the way that it is. So I'm going to go ahead and hit search up here, and we're going to look at something more specific, okay? So if I wanted to do an advanced search, there's a quick search. That's just a quick one student, two students, something like that. If I want to do an advanced search, I come over here to my advanced search, all right? So everything is housed in eSchool, so you can search on basically anything. If you want to search on ESL, you want to search on SPED, 504. I know some of you like to get testing reports out of here. Testing information is not kept in here, but the information that the tests that come out is in here. Okay, so you know your 504 students, your ESL kids, things like that. So we can get specific and find a search for anything. Anybody got an idea of what a search they would like to search? Or you want me to just make up one? Okay. SPED. Okay. So if I was searching in a building, the first thing that you have to remember in eSchool, this is going to get, at first you're going to be like, what, this makes no sense. But then if you do it a few times, it'll make sense. Since I showed you every kid that had popped up in there, there were 79,000. We only as a district have, what do we have like in the system that are active? Probably 24,000 kids. That's counting pre-K. So they have statuses. So the majority of statuses are inactive, and then the kids that are here now are active. Okay? There's also graduated. That's a status. Those are kids that have graduated. They're gone. They're inactive and graduated at the same time. Then there's another status that's pre-registered. I show up right now for school next year. I'm going to be pre-registered for next year because it's currently not next year. So there's only 4 statuses, but the main ones are active and inactive. So the majority of the time, you're going to be searching for active kids. If you're looking at kids in your building right now, it's going to be active. So I've got a line here, demographic, current status equals active. My next line is I don't want to search every kid that I have access to, right? because I might have access to like 4 or 5 buildings. I don't want all of those kids in here. I just want my particular building that I'm wanting to look at. So I have another line that's demographic building, and I'm going to put in a building so that I know that, hey, this happens.
Do we just have access to our building?
Some people are going to have access to multiple buildings. If you would like access to multiple buildings, I can give you access to multiple buildings. A lot of people aren't going to want you to be able to go in there and touch students, so the majority of the time is we'll give you access to look at another building, but you can't change it. So in this situation, I could bring up other buildings other than your own, but you probably wouldn't be able to change it. Now there are times when, you know, if you were at one building and you moved to another building, you probably still have access. We probably didn't go in there and say, hey, take away your access to them. But the majority of the time, you'll have to ask and say, hey, I would like to see what's going on in this other building. But okay, so if I hit search right now, I'm going to have all the active kids in building 40. But I want to know, I want to see the sped kids in here. So I'm going to come over here. All right, so if you look here, you have tons of information of all of these different screens. Now, it helps a lot to know where this information is, because if you can tell, it is in all kinds of different places. So each one of these things that I'm looking at here, they're pretty much a different screen. Okay? So demographic information is a demographic screen. All right? Then you would have academic information. You have next year demographic information. So if I'm a grade 10, my next year is going to be 11. All right? Okay, so I'm going to come down here to personal. So there's a whole lot of personal information. So these are all of the things that are that are in the personal screen. There's one down here that has IEP. Okay, so or in eSchool, I should say, there are different ways that SPED is identified. Okay, so if they have an IEP, that's one quick way to get these kids, right? Are there other times that kids have an IEP that aren't SPED? No. Okay, so that's why it's a really fast way to get it. All of the SPED kids have their own SPED module in here, and you can do searches on those type of things too, but I would have to look for it because I don't know all the rules on SPED. I don't know all the screens in there. You'd have to tell me exactly what you were looking for. But this one's really fast, so has IEP. Okay, so now if I come over here and I hit equals a capital Y, you have to use a capital Y for if it's a checkbox, and IEP is a checkbox. Okay, this is going to bring up all of the IEP kids in building 40. All right, so if I hit search, that's great. It's going to bring me all those. Now this is the good part. This is the part that you're going to want to know. Okay, so the search part, if you ever need help in a search, you just let me know and I'll tell you the search. And once you've done it 4 or 5 times, you'll start to figure out, hey, I know how this works now. I can bring up whichever kids I want. But if I hit search here, it's going to be the default search here. It's going to show me their student ID, their building, their grade, the gender, the house team, and the counselor. And you're like, I don't care about it. I want the information on there that I want. So I'm going to come back over here to search. I'm going to go back to advanced search. And down there at the bottom, there's one that says list field display selection. There's one that says custom. Okay? So this is where on the bottom I can put in anything that I wanted. So I could put in phone numbers. I could put in all of the testing information that you know when you get one of those reports that have the columns that have if they're ESL, if they're what their race is, what their language is, their home language, any of these things. I can add all of these to this screen right here. So then when it comes up, so I can say demographic. What else would I want in there? Okay, I probably want grade. I can say demographic. Let's go over here and do this one. Let's go to personal. There's a lot of information on personal. So I can say ethnic code. I can say personal. I want, if they're Hispanic, I want their social security number, and if they have a 504. Where's my section 504? Okay, so now when I hit search on this, it's going to bring me up their ethnic code right here. It's going to say if they're Hispanic, yes or no, and it's got their social security number, and it's got if they have a 504 plan. Okay, so then once I have this, if I have this information up, all I have to do is hit report and send it to an Excel, and then I have an Excel file with it. So anytime that you need that Excel file, you know, and then once you get an Excel, you can filter it the way you want. You could filter on all the kids that are Hawaiian Pacific Islander. Okay, you could filter it on anything you want. The hardest thing to know about this is to know where these things are in the screens. Yes.
Would it be possible, because you've done this for me before, and I have it still, but not on everything that I'd like to have it on. Can you go back one screen?
Yeah. To the search screen?
Yes. No, yeah, that screen.
Right here? Okay.
Would it be possible for you to screenshot that for SPED, ESL 504, you know?
Okay. All right, I'll tell you what the easiest way to do it is for you to tell me exactly what you want. All you have to do is tell me exactly what you want. And you'll come in here, I'll tell you what the search is, and you come in here, and if you type in something up here, so I can type in, this one's I'll call Jacob. All right? And you see what's on there. So when I hit search, after I typed in Jacob, all right, it brings up all my kids. Well, say then I looked for a kid named Davis here. All right, I brought up all the kids named Davis. I'm going to go back to search, and when I look, it says, well, demographic, last name, I lost all of that stuff I had in there. Demographic, because the last search I did, this saves the last search I did. Well, now all I have to do, since it's something that I use a lot, I come up here to favorites, and I choose Jacob, and it pulls up everything that I want. So you only have to do it once if it's something that you're going to use every year. The hardest part is to find out what all that information is. And I understand it's something, that's what I mean. I don't think that you're going to be able to figure that out, you know, right now and say, oh, well, because I've been doing it for a long time, and some things I'm like, well, I can't, I'll try to do a search on that. It's just hard to, you know, because sometimes you want to know kids that had eggs for breakfast that, you know, that live on a certain road. And, you know, I'm, okay, let me see. I'll have to look at it and see if I can do it, but it might be difficult to get that information.
It's really mainly that bottom box. I've saved all my searches that you and I worked on together, but it's mainly like when I wanted, let's say that we've saved SPED, ESL, and 504, and then one day I'm like, you know, I really want to search for a free and reduced lunch or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, then I get that sometimes I've been able to manipulate the previous search to find the next thing I want
Right.
to know, but sometimes it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard.
I don't know it's a field that's
Right.
searchable by.
Right, and you don't know what the entries are in the field. So a lot of times what I would have to do is I would have to come find, I would say, okay, I know I want meal status, all right, but I don't know what's available for meal status. So I would search on a kid. I could just do this search, and I would click on a kid, and I would have to go find the field that is meal status and see what's available.
I see.
And then I know what I can search because it's all based on codes. So if I say, okay, I know I want Alex Aguilar here. All right, so I'm going to come over here to one of these screens and look through one of these screens. All right, right there. It tells me meal status, and it's got an 01. Okay, so I can click on this 01 here, and it's going to take me to my meal status. But it shows you in these boxes what's available. I know I went through that pretty fast, and that's probably pretty confusing, but everything is table driven. So there's a table that has codes that are available to search on. Okay? And so I know that if I'm searching for meal status, I would have to pick either 02 or 01, 02, 03, or 04. And this tells you too, well, the good thing about this is it tells you if it has a 0 in front of it. So if I just searched on meal status of 1, nobody would come up. Nobody has a meal status of 1. It would have to be 01. It's 2017 and we can't get it to read 1 as 01 is 1. I don't know how that works, but the state paid for this system, so you know it's cheap.
One thing that I got excited about, Jacob, Jacob put together a report for us at the end of the year for our, all the seniors from both schools that had Westwood in their history, right? Because we wanted to figure out, well, who are the kids that have, so, and I didn't know this, did y'all know this? So then we did a phone call, and all you have to do is copy and paste ID numbers. And so we copy and pasted the ID numbers he gave us into the phone calling system, and I could call him and say, hey, you were at Westwood at one point, be sure and join us for. So that was, so anytime you have like a weird list, you know, if you can get it from this and then have ID numbers, then you can do a lot.
You see, the
I was
cool,
pretty excited.
the cool part of that is
Show up, but
the,
still, it was cool.
Oh.
We had three. We had three. We're gonna have six next
Yeah.
year, three.
the cool part about that is the phone call system that eSchool doesn't have anything to do with. I'm glad you threw that in when I'm trying to talk about something that's
Well,
not
but
cool.
that's, I mean, I was like, oh, I need to learn more about.
Yeah, I know
make
how you
phone
find this
calls
stuff.
for-
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I'm telling you. If there's ever a time that you want something like that, just ask, and we can probably get it for you. Do you have a question?
Well, yeah, because like first grade, stick horse rodeo, it's tomorrow. Teachers want me to just call the first grade parents, and I'm like, it goes out to everybody, but we could generate a first grade list.
Yep.
Copy their ID number.
Well, actually, you can do that. Yeah.
If you ever need a list like that, you just let me know, and that is very easy to get. If I'm not working on something currently, I can get that for you very quickly. And I don't know if y'all know, I work, if there's ever a time that you email me or want to send me something, also add Shauna Davis, S. Davis. You want to know her. She's a lot nicer than me. She's a lot faster than I am. It goes back to Dr. Cleveland talking about hiring good help. I hired good help, so she's way better than I am, okay? So you send her something, she'll get back to you. Me, I'm like, all over the place sometimes. I might be thinking about golf, like who's winning the U.S. Open right now? He was already. All right, so we can get pretty much anything we want out of eSchool. All right, we can do a search for anything we want. It doesn't matter if it's courses, if it has to do with courses. I know that's more of a secondary thing than an elementary thing. If you want to know who misses a whole lot of classes or courses or days or anything like that, we can do that. We can do that directly out of eSchool. There's one other thing that I want to show you that's there, and I want you to be able to look at it and say, hey, this probably has some helpful information on it. So we use a report writer program that is called Cognos. And we create these reports, and it can pull from different modules, and it pulls from different modules really easy. So like if I wanted to know all of the kids that had 10 absences that had an out-of-school suspension, I could pull that. I could make a report that did that for me. All right? So if there's ever a time that you think this is something that you want, then you can email it to me and I can go look for it. Or you can go look for it. And I'm going to show you where it's at so that you can go look for it if you want. All right, so if I'm logged into eSchool, I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom, and there's one over here that says Cognos Reporting. All right? If I go to Cognos Reporting, I have to type in my same exact information that I used to log on. Now remember, when you go into Cognos, there's the little message down here that says Show All Content. You have to click that, or nothing's going to come up. But I just want to show you some of these reports. So pretty much, if there's a report, if there's something that you want, somebody else in the state has wanted it. So what they do is they send it to the Arkansas Department of Education, and this guy creates these reports for us. And the good news is I know him really well, and so if you want a report created, I can just call him and say, hey, create this report for us, and he'll create it. And it doesn't matter how crazy you get, he's pretty much can create it. All right? So when he creates these reports, I come in here and look. So just for an example, so last year we do Cycle 7, and that has all of our ALE information on it. Okay, so the state and all of their wisdom, it pulls all of these ALE kids to a report, and then you're supposed to do this crazy calculation, and it is crazy. Don't get me wrong, it's crazy. You do this crazy calculation to come up with your FTE, all right? So I'm like, well, can't you just run a calculation and tell me what the FTE is? And they're like, no, we can't do that. And how they're doing it somewhere, so they have to be able to. So I contact the guy, and I'm like, hey, can you tell me what our FTE is? And he's like, yeah, I'll just create you a report, and then you can just run it and get our FTE. So I run it earlier today, and I realized, and this is one of the last days for Cycle 7, so I'm like, well, I need to make sure that we're getting all our ALE money. Well, it comes to find out, we were 150 kids short. It's like $650,000 just because of one little thing that was changed in there. And if he hadn't created that report, it would have taken me 2 weeks to comb through this information. Then I have to ask the state to open it again so that I can do it. Whereas this report, just because I need it, he creates it for me, and I can do it in like 2 seconds. You see, so anything that you can get, anything that you can imagine in your head can be created, basically.
So what's your final number?
Like, we're not done, but probably like 800. We were at 600 last year? 580?
Yeah, FTE.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty close. Okay, so when I come into Cognos, now if we ever create a report for you, we're going to put it in our folder, but there's these public folders out here that they think that they've created a report that's helpful, all right? So if I come to demographics, I've got these folders, and you can think, okay, well, which one do I think most of the information is going to be on? If I come in here, I have to think about it too, because sometimes it's going to be in state reporting information. All right, so that's the information that's going to the state. Other times I'm like general demographic information. I'm like, okay, let's go up here to general demographic information. And it's going to have all of these reports that are in here that you can get. So if you wanted a birthday list, something like that, you can just come in here and read and run this, and it's going to have everything that you need. There's every report that you could ever think of, or it's possible to make every report that you've ever thought of in here. All right, so if you look, Cognos has different folders too. So if I was ever going to need an attendance report, I would come into attendance. If I was ever going to need medical, if I was ever going to need scheduling, mark reporting, anything like that. All right, so, I know that we don't have time to do a whole Cognos training. I just want you to know that it's available, because a lot of times y'all don't have time to sit here and play with these things. I know that you're busy. I know that if you're calling me for something, you pretty much need it, and you probably need it right then. So I can go run these reports for you. I just want you to know that they're available, so that if you do get tired of saying, hey, I'm kind of at your beck and call, or not beck and call, but kind of at your mercy of when you can get it to me, that if there's a time, like say you have an hour free on, 2 weeks from today that you want to sit down and talk about this, I can come to you and we can sit down and look at this specifically so that you know how to run it and you know how to get it, and then you have it and you can run it anytime you want. And then when I create one, you can run it. Yes?
With like attendance, can you have it set up so that we get a report daily of the kids that are 7+ absences and it's automatically sent to us?
Okay.
Like once a week or
Okay,
something?
I'll tell you the problem with that, what you're talking about. I can do that, but it gets kind of crazy because you have to set a date range. So I have to create one that sets the whole year as a date range, and then it gets kind of funny. But I think it's possible. That's possible. I wouldn't say that it's impossible. It just gets kind of funny sometimes setting it up. And sometimes it'll work for a while, and then it'll quit working, and then we have to. But you could definitely come run it every week, but we can get it where it emails it to you too, which isn't too difficult. So all of these reports too, if there's ever one that's like an attendance report or something like that, you can get it to email it to you every once in a while, and I can show you we can set it up where it just emails you this report, and so that you can look at it without having to go run it. Some days you might want to, if you have it sent to you every Monday for the past week, you might be able to look at it. See, if you're doing one that's like 7 absences or more, that's possible because it doesn't change. But if you wanted to know like who missed 3 days of last week, you would have to run that, because it's not going to change the weeks for you, you know.
What about kids that have a birthday that day and their teacher's name, like sent to his daily?
Oh, see, that one's right there. I just saw that one, the birthday list.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's easy to do.
So, but does that, can you make it so it automatically
No,
sends it to us every
no,
time?
you would have to. It would just send you the same report over and over. But I mean, you can run it. You can do it. If I come run it, it's going to give me a prompt, and I'm going to have to pick the date that I want. But if you just ran it for the whole year, it would show you everybody's birthday, and then you can just kind of go down, which is kind of, yeah.
Is there an easier, you may have already said this because I stepped out for a second, but if you have, it's fine. Is there an easier way to run attendance that doesn't require 18 steps?
No.
Okay.
Like you're talking about sending a letter?
Yeah.
No, it's awful. It's the worst thing that they've ever come up with in the history of
Most
mankind.
archaic
Yes,
thing
it's
I've
like
ever seen.
ridiculous. And I know that letters are awful.
But even for period attendance, just to see who has attendance issues, that's pretty awful too.
It is. There are some reports that you can go in here and look, you know, and find the ones that have some issues, and that's easier than running the letters. The letters are awful. I agree. They're awful. I can't do anything about that. Yeah.
Speaking of the letter, Ms. Clay shared with us this morning where we changed the policy from 14 days to 7 days. So can we reflect that in the letter?
Yes, we should. I guess I should have been notified at some point. Thanks. Yeah. That, you know, I usually find out way after everybody else. They're like, hey, we're doing it this way. No, we're not. We're doing it this way. They're like, what?
Say 14 days.
Yes. So we'll fix that, and we'll fix the attendance. Okay. So one other thing I want to show you, because we're running out of time real quick here, is if there's ever, I know some of you are overachievers and you like to know this information, and you like to call and say, hey, I read this, so that if I tell you something wrong, you can say, Jacob, I just read this on this manual and you're wrong. I'm going to show you where you can get these manuals, okay? So if there's ever a time that you wanted to do something or you think that something's a little off, you can go look. All right, so there's a website. It's abscan.org. All right, and this is Abscan's website. Now, this is another one that you're going to be like, these steps are crazy. They use these initials, and they're hard to find. The one that I work in, okay, so if you see up there at the top, SIS is the information that goes to the state, okay? That's the information that goes to the state. The information in the system is going to be the SMS, Student Management System, okay? So that's SMS. If you were ever working on financial stuff, that's FMS. That's Kelly Hayes. So I feel sorry if you have to call him. All right, so we're going to go to SMS here, and it's going to have these training documentation. It's going to have training things. Okay, so I just want to show you this. You have to have a, look, they make you put in a username and a password, like somebody's going to come in and steal this information. Nobody wants this stuff. I think the people they bought it from make them do this. But the password, the username is ABSCAN, APSCN. And I get a lot of crazy acronyms when people email me. They'll say ABASCN or ABSCAM, like the 70s hit or whatever it was. So I get all the kinds of crazy things, but it's APSCN. And the password is DOCS, D-O-C-S. Okay, I wanted to show you this for two reasons. First, you have the 3.1 training documentation. Whatever the highest number is, that's the one that you're going to be on. If we go to a new one, it's going to be a higher number. But right underneath that is Student Management System eSchool training videos. And there's one right there that has, if I click on that training videos, it's all for TAC. It's all for teachers. Now, if you hire somebody that's coming from an Arkansas school, they've been using TAC. If they're fresh out, they've probably not been using TAC. It will not take young people very long to pick up TAC unless they are, unless you shouldn't have hired them, I should say. Because TAC is not that difficult to learn. Now, some of the older teachers have more trouble with it. I don't mean to say young and old is a thing technology-wise, but some of them have more trouble with it. Not that some young people can't have trouble with it, but so there's training videos there that you can watch. But I'm going to click on this training documentation right here. And so it has the training guides for, now these, Abscan wrote this, so the program we use is eSchool out of Pennsylvania. This is written by people in Little Rock. And so I actually wrote a few of these when I was there, so they're probably bad. But the ones that I didn't write, somebody very good did write, and so the training documentation is great for some of them because it pertains to us and how we use the system, okay? That's all of the training guides right there. One other thing I want to show you, and then I'll quit talking so we can go watch the U.S. Open. On the SIS screen right here, okay, so the SIS screen has all of this. It sends you all kinds of different places. Like some of you might want to know the course code for, if you're in secondary schools, you might want to know the course code. It's got all kinds of links here to every page that you think you might need. It's one place that if I go to the Department of Education website, sometimes it's hard to find what you're looking for, and they seem like they're trying to hide it from you. This usually has the link that I need. However, there is one other thing down here that I was going to show you. Right here, if you were ever curious as to the student fields for cycle reporting, this document right here has them all. These are all the fields in eSchool that if you were going to go in and play with and change things in there, I would be angry at you, okay? You can't just put in whatever you want in these fields. These are the fields that we send into the state, all right? So these are the fields that can't be blank, such as race, social security number, that type of information. But if you were ever curious as to what goes in, it is on a document here. And if you want me to just print it out and bring it to you, I get free paper where I'm at, so I can print it out and bring it to you. It's HAR-BER's paper, so yeah. So, and if you're looking for us, you can call the PDC, and they'll send you. There's a little thing on there that'll send you to us. We are housed. If you're physically looking for us, we're housed at HAR-BER. HAR-BER's nice enough to hide us in a closet so that nobody can come find us. Yes. Thanks. All right. Do we have any other kind of crazy questions? I know you've been sitting in here for 2 hours, so y'all just want me to be quiet and let you go, right? I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to keep talking for a minute. Try to think of something else. No. All right. I'll see y'all later. We are kind of off and on. You don't have to clap for me. It's all. We are kind of off and on during the month of July. So if you send us an email or call, it might be 2 days before we get to you, but we will get to you because we kind of have to filter our days the best we can. That's why it's best to email both of us, Jacob Hilton and Shauna Davis. All right, have a good summer.